The old man walked into the courtroom in cuffs, his chin low, shoulders hunched under a jacket too big and too worn to keep the cold out. "Name?" the clerk asked. He lifted his eyes, voice a cracked whisper. "Mason Quinn, Sergeant, United States Marine Corps." Nobody saw what was coming next. Judge Olivia Parker had been flipping through his file like it was just another case in her long day until she froze. The name. Her hand stopped mid-page, eyes locked on that single forgotten name. A flicker of something buried, deep surfaced on her face, and for a moment, she didn't move. Yeah, that name meant something. Mason Quinn was the man who had saved her brother's life in Fallujah. The one Jack had written about in his last letter home, before the war took him for good. Mason hadn't just saved him, he'd carried him out of hell itself, made sure a whole convoy lived to see another day. She remembered the story, but not the face. Not until now. He didn't look like a war hero. He looked like a man time had forgotten. 70 next spring, maybe slumped in silence like the courtroom bench was the only thing holding him up. His skin was lined with the kind of wrinkles that don't come from age alone, the kind that settle in when you've been living outside, eating when you can, sleeping where it's quiet enough not to get jumped. The charges were small time. Public disturbance, trespassing, resisting arrest. Some kid in a suit the prosecutor was running through his record like it was routine. Said Mason had been caught behind Jefferson Street Cafe. Again, 3 complaints in a month. But what he didn't say was that Mason never begged, never hassled anybody. He sat behind that building for one reason: warmth. That kitchen vent blew just enough heat to stop his bones from freezing in the December dark. And when the officer came to move him along, Mason didn't resist. Not really. He just asked for 5 more minutes, long enough to finish half a sandwich that the cook, Jimmy, had passed him out the back door. But rules were rules. The prosecutor was pushing for community service and a 30-day ban from downtown, which sounded fine until you realized that meant Mason couldn't go to the one shelter that still had a bed, or to St. Luke's on Soup Day. No cafe, no vent, no food, no bed, and no attorney. His public defender had been pulled into another case. When the judge asked if he wanted to speak for himself, Mason just cleared his throat, his voice barely working. "No excuses, Your Honor. I was just trying to stay warm." The judge asked why that spot. He looked up, squinting. "The cook, Jimmy. Known him since he was a kid. His dad served with me in the Gulf." She asked about his service. Not something that usually came up in these kinds of hearings. "Marine Corps, Maim. 75 to 95. Staff Sergeant. 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines, Iraq." He said it like it still meant something. Like the words were muscle memory, not bragging. Then, just as the judge turned a page in his file, boom, courtroom doors opened, and in walked a man in a $1,000 suit. Leather briefcase. Confidence like he belonged in a bigger court. "Your Honor," he said, "Alexander Rossi, here to represent Mr. Quinn." Mason blinked. He hadn't hired anyone. Couldn't afford it even if he tried. "I request a brief recess," Rossi added, cool as ice. The judge nodded, recessed the court, and disappeared into chambers. Mason turned to the guy. "I don't got money for a lawyer." "You won't need any," Rossi said. "We're pro bono. Williams, Rossi, and Parker." Parker. That stopped Mason. Same as the judge. Rossi just nodded. Meanwhile, in chambers, Judge Parker sat at her desk, breathing hard, staring at a photo she kept in her drawer. Her and Jack, her baby brother, standing side by side on his promotion day. And beside the photo, a letter. The last one he sent from Iraq. He'd written about a firefight. How the enemy had them pinned near Fallujah. How one sergeant ran through bullets to drag him out. "Staff Sergeant Quinn," the letter read. "If it weren't for him, none of us would have made it. Jack died 2 weeks later from an IED. But because of Mason Quinn, she'd had those last letters. 2 more weeks of hope before the grief. She tried to find Quinn after the funeral. Military, said he redeployed, then later discharged. PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and then nothing. Now there he was, in her courtroom, wearing a shelter coat and handcuffs. When Rossi came in, he saw the photo. "It's him, isn't it?" She nodded. "I never thought I'd see him again. Not like this. Ethically, he said gently. You could recuse yourself. No, she said steady now. I won't let him vanish again. Not this time. Back in the courtroom, everything was suddenly different. Your Honor, Rossi began, we moved to dismiss all charges. My client was trying to survive. He had permission from the staff to be there. This is not criminal conduct. This is a system failure. The judge turned to Mason. Her voice was calm, but firm. Mr. Quinn, were you deployed to Fallujah in 2004? Yes, ma'am. Convoy got hit west side of the city. Did you assist a Lieutenant Jack Parker? The room went still. Mason's eyes searched the air like he was looking for ghosts. Parker, yeah. Young officer. Brave. Got hit trying to save a corpseman. I pulled him behind a wall. His voice dropped. He told me to leave him. Said to get the others. I didn't. And what happened to Lieutenant Parker? We got him to the medevac, Mason said. He made it out. Heard he was back out a few weeks later. That's when his vehicle got hit. He paused, swallowed. Sometimes I think I did more harm than good. Getting him out just for that. Suddenly, from the gallery, a silver-haired vet stood up. That's him, he shouted. Staff Sergeant Quinn. He saved us. I was there. The judge banged her gavel, but her voice trembled. She ordered a recess. Back in chambers, she made one call. Colonel Matthews, she said. I need a favor. Now. 10 minutes later, the courtroom doors opened again, and in walked 3 Marines. A colonel, a master sergeant, and a corporal carrying a wooden box. The courtroom didn't breathe. Mason Quinn, the colonel said. The Department of the Navy recognizes your extraordinary heroism. On April 17, 2004, your actions saved lives, disrupted an ambush, and changed the course of that mission. He opened the box. Inside, the Navy Cross. Not a silver star. Not a pat on the back. The second highest combat honor in the U.S. Military. Your silver star has been upgraded, the colonel said. Newly declassified intel confirms it. You're the reason that convoy survived. Mason stood frozen. This has to be a mistake. No mistake, Sergeant, the colonel said. This is long overdue. From the gallery, another voice. Attention! The silver-haired Marine snapped to salute. Others followed. One by one, veterans and civilians stood and saluted Mason Quinn. Even the prosecutor. Judge Parker stood. All charges are dismissed with prejudice. And just like that, the gavel came down. After the formalities, the Marines handed Mason a tablet. Your VA status has been adjusted. Full benefits. Back pay. Housing. Medical. You're covered. He couldn't speak. Rossi stepped in. We'll make sure it all goes through. No more bureaucratic nightmares. Then, Jimmy the cook stepped forward. My dad told me once, he said, if I ever met a Mason Quinn, I owed him everything. Never thought it was you all this time. Even the prosecutor stepped forward. I'm sorry, he said. You deserved better. And Mason, for the first time in years, stood tall. 2 weeks later, he stood in front of a mirror in his own apartment. A real place. Warm. Quiet. On the wall, the Navy Cross. Next to it, his old medals, the ones Rossi had somehow tracked down from an auction-off storage unit. A knock at the door. Olivia Parker. No robe. Just a woman with a box. Mind if I come in? Please, he said. And call me Mason. Then I'm just Olivia. They sat together, awkward and honest. She handed him the box. Letters. From Jack. One mentioned Mason the day after the rescue. He said you were the man he wanted to become. I'm not a hero, Mason muttered. That's what heroes always say. She told him about the day Jack died. How he volunteered to protect civilians. Said he was trying to live up to you. That hit hard. All these years, Mason thought he'd failed. That saving Jack only delayed the inevitable. You didn't fail, Olivia said. You gave us time, and you gave him purpose. They sat in silence, the snow falling gently outside. I thought no one remembered, Mason whispered. We did, she said. Some people just take longer to find their way back. He looked up, a fire rekindled. Someone remember my name. That day, something heavy lifted off him. Something he'd carried for decades. Because some people fight for their country and then get forgotten by it. But sometimes, with enough heart, justice catches up. And when it does, it salutes. What do you think? Was justice finally served, or was it 20 years too late? Drop a comment. Let's talk about honor, recognition, and the people society forgets until it's almost too late.